welcome back to Studio STL. We've moved outside on the weather deck. Our good friend Raffi joining us right now. National Grilling Month, man.
That's right.
You got to celebrate that, right?
That's right. There's a long history behind it.
Give us a history.
Well, think about grilling, we think about going in the backyard, right?
Yeah.
And historically, where you would do grilling is more actually in picnic grounds and campsites.
Okay.
However, in the post-World War II, as the expansion to suburbs and the Cold War happens, now you have more backyards. As you have more backyards, you have more grilling space. And when you have more grilling space, more at-home grilling, the way we think about it, the backyard grilling takes off and takes place. And there's kind of some Cold War reasons behind it, some historical reasons, one of which, for example, is in that Cold War period, when you're trying to contrast against communism with the Soviet Union,
okay.
You say, look at the abundance and fortitude we have with red meat in capitalism that the communist folks over in the Soviet Union don't have. So it's a combination of having the space in the backyard and in the Cold War trying to compare ourselves and say, look at the fortitude of red meat that's available, which I know he has brought some here today.
Yeah, that is Mike with Grillo's Chop and Barrel. Thank you so much for being here.
Sir.
Yeah, so every day is a good grilling day for you, right?
It certainly is, yeah. Can't be too hot.
Okay, it can't be too hot. So what do you got cooking today?
Well, right now we're going to get ready to pull this ribeye off of here. So we threw this ribeye on about 10 minutes ago, and we're going to take this puppy off here. See that puppy nice and tender, it's falling apart already. And we have another steak sitting out on the table we're going to grill hopefully after we're done here. I got a strip steak out here as well. A few of our favorite seasonings. These were seasoned with our butter garlic seasoning. Brings out like the salt, the garlic, a little bit of that butter flavor.
Yeah.
Kind of pulls onto the fat content in the meats as well.
What's the biggest mistake backyard grillers make?
Overcooking.
Overcooking.
Yeah.
There you go.
Overcooking. You can always put it back on the grill. You can't get it more rare.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So is it because they get it too hot?
Probably leaving it on too long.
Too long.
So yeah, there's multiple ways, right? You can do a reverse sear, or you can sear first.
Yeah.
So you can go both ways, but you got to get that grill cooled back down fast enough to let that meat kind of slow cook just a little bit. So
you got some sauces over there you're pretty proud of over there, and some.
We
rubs.
do, yeah. We got some malls, we got some of our rubs, we got some of our whiskey out because you can't forget whiskey if you're going to have a good steak, and that's where we specialize in. So.
Now, if I could add, since he's mentioning the stuff about the skills, see now look at the craft that goes behind the input of making that meat, right, and making it taste right.
Sure.
And in the 1950s, the era that it really becomes so popular, one of the reasons this happened is because think about men going to corporate jobs. There's a rise of modern corporations in the 50s and 60s, and in that context, there's a sense of, hey, at home, let's have men continue to do what we see as manly things, handling the meat and having the skills to develop to handle the meat well. And actually women going back into the domestic sphere after World War II, you know, where they had come out and done a lot of industrial work, but now saying, well, women can go and do some of the cleanup work and the side dishes in the kitchen, so the men can come in and maintain their masculinity because they felt a little bit robbed from it when they're going into corporate jobs in suits and no longer working out, handling the meat the way we think of out west, you know, on the frontier with a cowboy, the American mythology and the American story, the independence and the self-sustaining. And that story of having lost that frontier and now in corporate jobs is part of how the craft around it and caring for it and associating it more with men than with women develops in that context in the 50s.
It does become a talking point, right? You share with other grillers and barbecue guys, you swap secrets?
Absolutely, yeah. We get asked all the time what are our favorite ways to cook steaks. My personal is over a charcoal grill. We used gas today because that was much more convenient for us.
Right.
But there's nothing quite like cooking over an open wood fire. And there's a local company called Rockwood Charcoal out of Missouri, and they do just lump charcoal. And so it's actually just like cooking over an open fire.
What about wood? When it comes to woods, different types of wood you can use for smoking. You have a favorite?
Yeah, so Rockwood just does straight oak.
Okay.
That it burns longer, it can burn hotter, it can also burn very slow. So it's good for temperature changes. You can use cherry woods, you can use apple woods to kind of get a little bit of different smoke flavors to it if you're doing some slow cooking on bigger pieces of meat. Typically, like the ribeye we did today only took about 10 minutes. So you're not going to get a lot of smoke flavor in there. But if you're cooking a big piece of meat, then you can definitely start to get some of that smoke involved.
Knowing those skills, indirect or direct heat, Got the big brisket on the side. It's going to take you a little longer.
A lot longer.
Yeah. Slow and low.
And it's real quick. There are many different ways to do it, as he's suggesting. And part of the story behind that is James Beard, famous today for the Beard Awards, which is the big restaurant awards. James Beard put out a book on grilling and barbecuing in the 1950s, this era we're talking about. And one of the things he admired was in the United States, the story of the immigrant narrative into the melting pot with all the different influences we have from Latin America and Asia, etc., is what contributed to having so many different ways of using a grill and direct and indirect heat and barbecuing, or depending on how you use the term barbecue, of course, there's different ways you can use it. But he admired the American immigrant story baked into cooking meat the way that we think about it. So that was historically a part of it too. And I think part of the reason that we have all the different styles of doing it the way that you described, Mike.
Yeah.
There you go. So many different ways to think about grilling and barbecuing and so much. But celebrate it all month long. Heck, do it all year long. Find a way to get out and grill.
Absolutely.
Keep it right here. We got more coming your way at Studio STL on a Friday.